She's also served as Senior VP of Domestic Finance and Interim President of Best Buy Service Organizations. She is from Minnesota. She holds bachelor degrees in accounting and management from the College of St. Benedict, where she now serves on the Board of Trustees. So welcome, Corie.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I just so appreciate the invitation.
Well, we're very fortunate to have you. I was commenting beforehand, the last speaker we had from the corporate world was Lisa Sue of AMD, and she had quite a day yesterday. I don't know what that means, but it means that hopefully we're a good luck charm. But I want to start off by asking you about your background, actually, because you have a very interesting background growing up in Minnesota, about an hour outside of where you are now. But your parents had interesting occupations, and you traveled around the U.S. with them. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for starting there. I mean, I think every one of us as leaders would say our ethics, our leadership ethos is started early in our lives at a very young age. My parents were both self-employed artists. And so they traveled the world and mostly the US selling their artwares. And at a very young age, I started traveling with them. And there were three big factors that came out of my early years with them. The first is flat out work ethic. I am certain there are people that are watching right now who are self-employed. And there's this misnomer that when you're self-employed, you set your own hours and you have flexibility. And my experience with my parents was they worked all the time. And there really wasn't an on or an off switch, it was their lives. And this idea of work ethic and working hard to accomplish what's important to you was just ingrained into me at a young age. The second is having purpose in your work. My parents believed art was incredibly culturally significant in this world, and that leaving an impression on the world, they could do that through art. And it was very important to me that I also took a path that aligned with my personal purpose, and that you had a purpose in your work. And the third thing that was really impressed upon me at a young age is the idea of advocacy and diversity. The world of art is a very diverse world, and our customers were incredibly diverse all over the US. And the interesting thing about artists is it's not about one beating another, it's about art being important and all of them succeeding. And that means your success is inextricably tied to someone else's. And I think that idea of advocacy and embracing diversity was also really important to me at a young age. And so even though I didn't ever have any exposure, literally, to corporate America, no one in my life, I was surrounded by teachers and artists, and those ideals and those ethical moments really were important in shaping, I think, the leader that I've become.
So how do you go from being the child of artists to going to college and becoming an accountant?
I think when you're raised in a world, and my guess is many of you have similar stories, you often seek what you don't have growing up. I mean, art is a wonderful thing, but it's very organic. We grew up without many means at all. I craved structure and clarity. I had a very analytical brain, and I think I just decided to go completely the opposite spectrum and try something that was completely different. And I love when I hear, even in my kids, I don't want to grow up to be what you are. I want to grow up to be what's important to me. And luckily, my parents supported me in that journey.
But early on at Best Buy, you got a very difficult review where I think the reviewer's language was something about being risky for the company to keep you there. Could you tell us about that and how you responded and what you did?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone at some point in your career gets feedback that is hard to hear. And for me at that moment, it was difficult to embrace the idea that I wasn't ready for the next step. And you have a couple different ways you can respond to that. And typically it's either fight or flight, right? You're either just gonna say, I've had it, I'm not gonna be right here, I'm gonna go